Hi friends, Allie here. In today's tutorial, I'll be showing you how to crochet this checkered ghost pillow. It's made up of two different 6-inch squares. We have a checkered square and a ghost square, and we'll be making 9 of each for a total of 18 to make this 18-inch pillow cover. These are all worked individually, then seamed together at the end. Now the best part about this pattern is that you can really use these two squares to make a bunch of different things. So if you didn't want to make a pillow, you could make a wall hanging instead. You could make a bunch more squares and make a blanket. You could use cotton yarn to make them into coasters. There are so many ways to use these squares, so feel free to use them as you'd like. You can also just make one of the square designs, like only make the checkers or only make the ghost. There's so many options to make it however you like. So what I'll be doing for mine is making 9 checkered squares and 9 ghost squares. So for the front and back panels of the pillow cover, the order is alternated between the two squares and it's opposite on each side. So one side has the ghost, checkers, then ghost for the top row, and then the other side goes checkers, ghost, checkers for the top row. Again, feel free to change this if you please. You can follow along with the free written pattern on my blog, theturtletrunk.com. That includes both written instructions and also a graph, so you can follow along with whatever method you prefer. If you want to get the ad-free printable PDF of this pattern, you can get it from my Etsy shop or on Ravelry. I'll link to all the places down below. Now if you're ready to get started, let's head over to our supply list. For this pattern, you'll need medium 4-weight yarn in 2 contrasting colors. For color A, you'll need about 420 yards, and I used Bernat Super Value in the color dark gray. For color B, you'll need about 336 yards, and I used Feels Like Bliss for the ghosts, which is a fluffy yarn. It's really soft, and I thought it was fun for the ghosts. I love the texture it gave the pillow, but feel free to use this or sub it for a regular yarn. For color B, for the checkered squares, I used Bernat Super Value in white. You'll also need a 5.5 millimeter or I crochet hook, an 18-inch pillow insert, a yarn needle, and scissors. I also added at the bottom of this chart the rough yardage per square, so if you plan on making something other than this pillow, you can use this info to plan your project. Now, if you're ready, let's get making. So I'll be showing you how to crochet the ghost square first, then we'll do the checkered square, then I'll show you how to seam them together, and then how to sew up our pillow. I'll put timestamps down below if you wanted to skip ahead to any of these steps. For my pillow, I use this dark gray and white yarn, which is hard to see on camera, so for the tutorial, I'll be using orange and light gray yarn, just so you can see my stitches better. You can follow along with the written instructions on the top of the screen, or you can get this graph off my website or with the PDF, whatever's easiest for you to follow along with. So each square on this graph represents 1 single crochet. The numbers on the sides show the rows. The odd number rows are worked on the right side of the square, and the even numbered rows are worked on the wrong side. Always remember to keep your tail ends on the wrong side of the square. So we're going to start with color A, which is going to be the dark gray on that graph. I'm going to be using this orange color so it's easier for you to see. So start with a slip knot on your hook, and then we are going to work a foundation single crochet row. This is working your foundation chain and your first row of single crochets together. If you wanted, you can work just a regular foundation chain and then single crochet back into that chain if you would like. So we're going to start with a foundation single crochet row of 20. So to work a foundation single crochet, chain 2, insert your hook into the first chain you worked, so the second chain from the hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through the first loop on your hook. There we just made our foundation chain. Remember where that is because we're going to work into that for the next stitch. Then yarn over, pull through both loops on your hook, and there we worked our single crochet. So to work our second one, we're going to go back into that first foundation chain we worked. There's 2 loops there, so make sure you're going into both loops there. Yarn over, pull up a loop. Yarn over, pull through the first loop on your hook. There we just created another foundation chain. Yarn over, pull through both loops on your hook, and there's our single crochet. So going back into that last foundation chain we worked, grabbing those 2 loops, yarn over, pull up a loop. Yarn over, pull through the first loop on your hook. Yarn over, pull through the last 2 loops on your hook. So we're just going to keep repeating this until we have a total of 20 stitches. So you should have a total of 20 foundation single crochets. Now we're on to row 2, chain 1 and turn. And for the next 2 rows, so rows 2 and 3, we're just going to work 1 single crochet into each stitch across using our color A yarn. The chain 1 at the beginning of the row does not count as a stitch, so work your first single crochet into the last stitch of the last round. So you just work 1 single crochet into each stitch across, chain 1 and turn, and repeat for the next row as well. So I just reached the end of row 3, so I'm going to chain 1 and turn. Now on to row 4. This is where we're going to start our first color change. So this is the bottom of the ghost. So we're going to work 5 color A, and then we'll alternate between B and A, and then end on A. So starting with color A, we're going to work 5 single crochets, and on that 5th single crochet is where we'll change colors. So on the 5th stitch, our last stitch of color A, we're going to change colors. So insert your hook and pull up a loop, and then before doing that final pull through, drop color A and pull through with color B so that we're ready to use color B for the next stitch. Since we're working on the wrong side of our square, we want all of our tail ends to be on the side closest to us. So all your tail ends should be on the wrong side. So I'm going to do that final pull through with color B and then work the next 2 stitches with color B. Since we're going to be going back and forth between color A and B, I'm going to work my stitches around the non-working yarn. So I'm going to work my next single crochet, but I'm going to work it around that tail end of color A so that it's right where I need it the next time I make a color change. So work your next single crochet with color B, work another one in the next one, but we're going to change colors again. So insert your hook, pull up a loop, and then do your final pull through with color A. And then we're going to work 2 stitches with color A, dragging our color B yarn through the stitches so it's with us when we need to pick it up again. So work 2 single crochets with color A. On that second one, we're going to change back to color B. Then we're going to work the next 2 single crochets with color B, continuing to work around the non-working yarn strand. Change color on that second single crochet, 2 single crochets with color A, change to color B, and we're going to work just 2 more with color B. On the second one, we're going to change to color A, and then we're going to finish the row with color A. Since we're not going to be changing back to color B until we come back around, we do not need to drag color B to the end of the row. You can just leave it where it is and we'll pick it back up when we get back to that spot on the other side. So don't worry about dragging the non-working yarn in the last stitches. So at the end of the row, we still have 20 stitches. We're going to chain 1 and turn. Now we're on row 5, and rows 5 to 14 are all going to be the same. So we're going to repeat the same thing for the next 10 rows. And we're going to work 5 color A, 10 color B, 5 color A. So this is going to be the main body of our ghost, and we're just going to repeat the same thing for the next 10 rows. So I'll show you how to do it once, and then I'm going to let you continue on and we'll catch back up after row 14. So work 5 single crochets using color A. So on the 5th stitch, we're going to change to color B. Now we're working on the right side, so our tail ends are going to be on the opposite side. So pull through with color B, and then work 10 single crochets using color B, And don't forget to drag your color A yarn behind and work 10 single crochets with color B. On the 10th stitch, we're going to change back to color A. I'm also going to pull on the color A yarn a little bit just so that it's not too slack in those 10 stitches we just worked. Just don't pull it too tight so that it cinches the square too much. And then we're going to work the last 5 stitches with color A. No need to drag your color B yarn across. So this is what it's looking like at the end of row 5. Now we're going to chain 1 and turn. And then for rows 6 to 14, we're just going to repeat the same thing. Single crochet 5 with color A, then 10 with color B, then 5 with color A. So I'm going to let you carry on and I'm going to catch up with you at the end of row 14. So this is what we're looking like at the end of row 14. Now we're going to decrease the top of the ghost. So now we're on to row 15 and we're going to work 6 single crochets with color A, then 8 with color B, then 6 with color A. So on the 6th stitch, we're going to change to color B, work 8 single crochets with color B, then on the 8th stitch, we'll change back to color A, and work 6 single crochets with color A, and no need to drag your non-working yarn for these last stitches. At the end of the row, chain 1 and turn. Now on to row 16. For row 16, we're going to work 7 with color A, then 6 with color B, then 7 with color A. At the end of the row, chain 1 and turn. Now we're on row 17. This is going to be our last row using our color B yarn. So we're going to work 8 single crochets with color A, then 4 with color B, then 8 with color A. At the end of row 17, chain 1 and turn. We can also cut off our color B yarn because we won't be using it anymore. Leave a long enough tail end that you can weave that in at the end. Now we're on to row 18, and for the next 3 rows, so rows 18, 19, and 20, we're just going to work 1 single crochet across using our color A yarn. So single crochet 20 across for rows 18, 19, and 20. When you finish row 20, you can cut off your yarn, leaving a long enough tail end to weave in. And then we'll weave in all of our ends on the back side. And then we can add eyes to our ghost. So weave in your ends and then catch back up with me and we'll add eyes to our ghost. So for all of my ghost squares, I'm going to add eyes by surface stitching. So that's going to be crocheting the eyes on the square. Feel free to use any method you'd like. You can embroider them on. You can glue on felt if you want. You can really do whatever you like. But I'm going to show you here how to add a surface stitch. So I'm going to use my color A yarn and grab my hook. So I'm going to work the eyes around row 13. And then there are going to be about 3 stitches in the middle. And so the eyes are going to be worked 3 stitches apart. So find where that is on your ghost and insert your hook through. And then you're going to pull your yarn with a slip knot. Pull that through to the front of your ghost. And then we're going to insert our hook into the next stitch over. Grab your yarn from the back, pull up a loop, pull that through your hook. So we just worked like a slip stitch. Now we're going to turn our ghost. So we're just going to be working around 1 stitch. So go 1 row down, pull up your yarn, pull it through the loop on your hook, turn, work 1 stitch over, pull up your yarn, pull it through your hook, and then go back to where we first started, insert your hook, pull up your yarn, and pull through the loop on your hook. Just like so. So we just made like a little square around one of the stitches. I'm going to cut my yarn and pull it through like so. And then there might be a little hole in the center where you can see our color B yarn. I'm just going to take my yarn needle and insert it through to the back, and that's going to cover up that little hole there. And then you can either just weave this end in, or I'm just going to tie the 2 ends together. So there we have 1 little eyeball. I'm going to tie the 2 loose ends together. Since I'm making a pillow and you're not going to be able to see the back side of the squares, I'm not concerned about hiding these ends. So I'm just going to tie them in a few knots, trim the ends, and leave it so. If you're making a blanket or something and you don't want the ends sticking out, then you should weave them in. So I'm just going to repeat the same thing for the other eyeball. So I'm going to leave 3 stitches in between them. So insert your hook for the next eye, then get a slip knot going with your color A yarn. Pull your yarn through to the front of the square. Insert your hook into the next stitch over. Pull your yarn through and through the loop on your hook. Then go down 1 row, insert your hook and pull your yarn through and through the loop on your hook. Turn and go 1 stitch over. Pull your yarn through and then go 1 row up to where we started and pull your yarn through. Then you can cut your yarn and then use your yarn needle to take your tail end through to the back. Then secure your ends. And then I'm going to be leaving my ghost just like this, just with 2 eyes. If you wanted to repeat this down a little bit lower for a mouth, feel free. You could also embroider a mouth on, do anything else that you want. I'm going to leave mine as is, but feel free to add more features if you would like. So there we have 1 ghost square. So I'm going to make 8 more for a total of 9. And now we're going to move on to making our checkered squares. Now we're onto our checkered square. Again, if you want to get the graph, you can get this off my website or the PDF pattern. So we're working 5 by 5 squares, alternating between our color A and B yarn. So we're going to start off with a foundation single crochet row again, but we're going to have to change colors every 5 stitches. So let's start it off as normal, starting with color A. We're going to chain 2. Then insert your hook into the second chain from the hook. Yarn over, pull up a loop. Yarn over, pull through the first loop on your hook, and that will be our first foundation chain. Yarn over, pull through both loops on your hook, and that will do our single crochet. Now insert your hook back into that first foundation chain. Yarn over, pull up a loop. Yarn over, pull through the first loop on your hook to create our next foundation chain, then yarn over, pull through both loops on your hook. And we're just going to keep repeating that for a total of 5 single crochets, and on that 5th single crochet, we'll change to color B. So for our 5th one, insert your hook into the foundation chain and pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through the first loop on your hook, and then we're going to drop color A here and do our final pull through of the stitch with color B. So the same way we've been changing colors with our ghost square, but this is for our foundation chain. So we're going to do that final pull through of our foundation single crochet with color B, and now we're going to work 5 foundation single crochets with color B. I'm going to work my first stitch as normal without worrying about dragging my color A across. So find that last foundation chain we worked and insert your hook into there. Yarn over and pull up a loop. Yarn over, pull through the first loop on your hook to create our next foundation chain. Yarn over, pull through both loops on your hook to finish the single crochet. So now we're going to work 4 more with our color B yarn. And when I first insert my hook into that foundation chain, this is where I'm going to drag across my color A yarn. So I'm just going to drag it through the stitch across the bottom like so. And then I'm going to continue my foundation single crochet as normal. So yarn over, pull up a loop. Yarn over, pull through the first loop on your hook. Yarn over, pull through the last 2 loops on your hook. And then we're just going to repeat that across for a total of 5 using our color B yarn. And then we'll switch back to color A. And we're going to repeat this until we have a total of 20 stitches. So 5 color A, 5 color B, 5 color A, and 5 color B. On the last set of our foundation single crochets using our color B yarn, don't worry about dragging your color A yarn along, because when we work our way back, we're going to be using color B for those first 5 stitches, and then we will pick up our color A yarn at that same spot that we're dropping it here. So no worries about dragging that through for the last 5 stitches. Just leave it where it's at now, and we'll pick it back up on our way back for row 2. At the end of row 1, we have a total of 20 stitches. Chain 1 and turn. The chain 1 does not count as a stitch. Now we're going to work 5 single crochets using our color B yarn. We are working on the wrong side of our work right now, so make sure all of your tail ends are going to be on the side closest to us on the wrong side. On the 5th single crochet, we'll change colors. So insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, then drop your color B yarn and pull through with your color A yarn. And then we're going to work 5 single crochets with our color A yarn, and we're going to drag our color B yarn between the stitches. So work around that tail end there so that we have it ready for us for our next color change. So work 5 single crochets with color A. On the 5th single crochet, we're going to change back to color B. Then work 5 single crochets with color B. On the 5th single crochet, change back to color A, and then we'll finish the row off with color A. No need to drag your color B yarn for the last 5 stitches. You can just leave it here and we'll pick it back up on the next row. So work 5 single crochets with color A. At the end of row 2, chain 1 and turn. And now for rows 3, 4, and 5, we're just going to continue this across. So work 5 color A, 5B, 5A, 5B, and then on the next row, we'll start with B and alternate every 5 stitches. So continue this until the end of row 5. So I'm coming up to the end of row 5. Now, after this row, we're going to be alternating the colors, and we're going to want to start with color A. So on my last 5 stitches using color B, I'm going to drag my color A yarn across with it so that I can start the next row with my color A yarn. So on this 5th stitch, so the last stitch of row 5, I'm going to change to color A so that I'm ready to use color A for the first stitch of row 6. So remember to do this at the end of the 5th row of each square. So now we're on to row 6. So rows 6 to 10. We're going to repeat rows 3 and 4. So we're going to repeat row 3, then 4, then 3, then 4, and then 3 again. We're going to end on a row 3 repeat. And so we're just going to continue doing this for rows 6 to 10, then 11 to 15, then 16 to 20. So we're going to have a total of 16 little squares that are all 5 stitches wide and 5 rows tall. We're going to have a total of 20 stitches across and 20 rows high. And we're just going to alternate making our color A squares and color B squares. And after every 5 rows, we'll change the order. So I hope this makes sense. You can follow along with the written instructions on the screen. And then I'm going to catch back up with you when we reach the end of row 20. I just finished row 20, and this is what our checkered square is looking like so far. So you can cut off both yarns, leaving long enough tail ends that you can weave in. Then you can weave in all of your tail ends on the back side. So this is what it should look like. Now you're going to want to make 8 more for a total of 9, and then we'll move on to joining our squares all together. So I've got all 18 of my squares, and I'm going to make 2 panels for the front and back of my pillow. So feel free to organize these however you'd like. But one side of my panel, I'm going to go checker, ghost, checker for the first row, then ghost, checker, ghost for the next one, and then checker, ghost, checker for the next row. And then on the opposite side of the pillow, I'm just going to do the reverse. So I'm going to go ghost, checker, ghost, then checker, ghost, checker, then ghost, checker, ghost again. So set these up however you want. Figure it out before you start joining them so you know exactly what you want. But feel free to do however you'd like. And then I will show you how we're going to join these together to make our front and back panels of our pillow. So I'm going to show you with these two squares how we're going to join them together. We are going to use the mattress stitch method. This creates a almost invisible join or seam, so that's why I like to use it. Feel free to use any other joining method if you have a preferred method, but I really like using the mattress stitch because you can't see it. So I'm going to be using my color A yarn to join. Use whatever color you would like. So you're going to need your yarn and a yarn needle. And each strand of yarn, you will need double the length of your squares. So since we're going to be putting 3 squares in a row, I'm going to cut my yarn 2 times that length. So I'm going to join the first row and the second row together, joining the bottom of the first square and the top of the next row together first. So I'm going to work in horizontal lines first, and then I'll go back and do the vertical lines. So grab your first 2 squares and line them up. So again, I'm doing the top left square and the one below it. Make sure you're working in alternate stitches on either side too so that they line up correctly. So I'm going to thread my yarn through my needle. And I'm going to go in on the left square first, going from the bottom to the top of the first stitch. And then I'm going to leave about 2 to 3 inches on the end. So my tail end, I'm going to leave about 2 to 3 inches like so. And then going into this square on the right, I'm going to go again through the bottom to the top through the first stitch, like so. Then we're going to go back to the left square, and this time we're going to go through the top to the bottom of that first stitch, so where we went through before, going through the top to the bottom, and then we're going to bring our needle back up through the second stitch. So in through the top to the bottom of the first stitch, and then come back through the next stitch over. And then we're going to repeat on the right side. So go through the top to the bottom of the first stitch on the right square, and then bring it back up through the next stitch. And then we're going to repeat that all the way up. So back to the left, go in through the top to the bottom of the last stitch you worked in, and then bring your needle back up through the next stitch over. And we're going to repeat that all the way across, alternating between the left side and the right side. So now on the right, go in on the right side in the last stitch you worked and bring it up through the next stitch. Then every inch or so, you want to take the 2 ends of your yarn and pull them tight to close that join like so. And there you can see that really just closes it up. And I know the yarn matches, so you can't see it anyways, but if you did use a different color yarn, you wouldn't be able to see it. So it's a really cool stitch. And we're just going to keep repeating this all the way across and making sure that every inch or so that you're pulling your join tight to close it. If you wait too long to do that, say if you went all the way to the end before you tightened it up, then it wouldn't tighten up very well and your yarn would bubble through. So just make sure you're doing that every inch or so and just repeat all the way across. So I'm going to continue and then I will meet you when I reach the end. Okay, so I've reached the end and I have 2 squares joined. It looks really nice. So now we're just going to continue across to continue to join more squares on. So I would just work the next 2 squares over and then just keep working across this one line until you have the first row and the second rows joined, and then I would join the third row onto that. So doing all of your horizontal lines, and then come back and do your vertical lines. So just continue on until you have all of the squares joined for both panels. So we're making 2 panels, each 9 squares, and then I will show you how to sew those together to make our pillow cover. Okay, so I have my 2 panels all made. And here's one of them, and then here's the other one. Sorry, it is really hard to fit this under my camera because these are so large. I just left the tail ends attached. You can weave them in if you like. I'm just gonna hide them on the inside of the pillow. So I'm gonna take my 2 panels and put the wrong sides together so that the right sides are showing. And I'm just going to single crochet around these both together to join them together. And this is gonna make a little border around the pillow, which I think looks really nice. Again, if there's a different way that you want to do this, feel free. But I'm gonna grab my color A yarn and my crochet hook. And then, yeah, we're just going to work 1 single crochet in each row down the left side, working in both panels. And then we're going to single crochet in each row across the bottom, and then again in each row up on the right side. And then in each corner, I'm gonna work 2 single crochets, and that's just gonna help us round out the corner. So I'm gonna work down the left side, then the bottom, then the right, and then I'm gonna stop there and put in my pillow insert, and then I will finish crocheting across the top to close it up. This will make a pillow cover that cannot be removed. If you want to make it removable, feel free to add a zipper on one of the sides, or you can add buttons or something like that to make it removable. I don't make mine removable, but feel free to find a way to do that if you would like. So I'm going to join my yarn to the top left corner, working through both panels, and then I'm just going to work 1 single crochet in each row down the side, then work 2 single crochets in the bottom corner, then 1 single crochet into each stitch across, 2 single crochets in the next corner, then 1 single crochet in each row up the next side. And then before I close up the top, make sure you add in your pillow insert, and then you can finish crocheting in each stitch across the top. So it's really hard to see this, I know, but I'm just working 1 single crochet in each row, making sure you're working into corresponding stitches on each panel so that they line up. So I'm going to continue on, and I will catch up with you at the end. Okay, sorry, I didn't take a video of me finishing it up because I couldn't fit it under my camera, so I'm just replaying this video again so you can see it. You can see the nice single crochet border we have around it. So I really hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget you can find this free crochet pattern and many more free crochet patterns on my blog, theturtletrunk.com. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.